Hello, it's the third week of July and we're just doing some fruit thinning. This is quite late fruit thinning, but it's still worth going over your crops and removing diseased apples and removing apples which are going to break branches. That is a problem. I just wanted to talk about a problem called brown rot. If you have a look at this apple here, this apple has been affected by brown rot. You see, it's gone all sort of squishy. Now this is no good at all, and there's another one over here. There are two. As is so often the case, it looks like one, but when you go down there's two or three. Now these will never do any good, and these really should be removed from the orchard, ideally burned, because there's no chemical protection against this particular brown rot organism. So I'm going to put these down here, but they're going to be taken away and burned. And I just want to show you something else. This variety is called Lambourn. It's a very good variety. It's not the best flavoured apple in the world, but it's a really good flavour. There are some tastier ones, but this is one of the trees which, if you're only going to have one apple in your garden, Lord Lambourn is one of the contenders because it's very self-fertile and it's a very good, steady, regular cropper. It doesn't need too much thinning usually. People talk about the June drop, where apples sort themselves out and you get roughly the right number. That works some of the time, but not always, and we do always thin. But I'll just show you this example. This is what we call a rope of apples. Can you go a bit closer, Junior? This is a rope of apples here. And if you can see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, about 18 apples here. So this is already weighing about 2 kilograms and they're still growing. So this branch is probably going to break if I don't actually remove some of these apples. So it seems terrible to do that. If you have a lot of time on your hands, you've got a small garden and you really want to maximise your apple crop, you can support these with stakes. I've seen this done in France, or you can do what they call maypoling. That's, you can drive a large, strong, tall stake in a wooden pole near the centre of the tree, and you can hang the branches up. But we haven't got the time or the energy to do this, so I've got about 18 apples here and I'm just going to take off a number of them, obviously looking for any which are blemished. And I'm just going to roll these off, just almost like picking them, okay? That one's a little bit blemished. That's not a bad blemish at all, but I've got to take some of these off. You see here, where you've got 3 apples stuck close together, if you're not careful, you pull them off, you may get them all off. So I'm just holding those two and twisting that, okay? I've just twisted that off. That's very mildly blemished. I'm just holding the apples next to it and just twisting that off carefully. Now, that one below there, the one that's underneath, doesn't colour up so well, and that's slightly blemished. This seems terrible, pulling apples off and chucking them away, but we know from experience this branch is carrying so many apples that if we don't do this, well, we'll come out here one morning and the branch will have broken off, so we'll have lost all of them and the tree will have been damaged. So I've just rolled off and discarded about half of those apples. So whereas we had about 16 or 18, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and there's more further up. So you can see now these apples are more widely spread, which means they'll get more sunlight. You won't get the earwigs making their home. If you can just see here, just where there was a couple of apples, there's some dead leaves there. Dead leaves, where you get 2 or 3 apples, or maybe even 4 apples growing very close together, you get a bit of dead space at the centre of them, and you get some debris building up, and you get earwigs and earwig mess, and they'll damage the fruit. So again, the principle of fruit thinning, where it has to be done, it's often about getting, say, 2 good apples instead of 4 bad apples. Because the worst case scenario is that you've got a big heavy rope like this carrying maybe 18 apples and you don't thin it when you need to, and you come out one morning and the whole branch has snapped off. And you thought, if only I'd reduced that 16 apples down to 8 apples, I'd have 8 good apples, but trying to get all of the apples that you could possibly have, you end up the branch being broken by the sheer weight. And you can see this is still a pretty good crop here. You just close in here, Julia. I'll show you a similar example of the same thing. Here we are. We've got a bunch of apples here, all close together, but this one underneath is not so good. That's a bit small, that's not going to do so well, so I'm just going to twist that off. Okay, just twisted that off. You notice that one sunk down slightly because that one was supporting it. I'm going to take that one off too. In fact, it's just fallen off. Okay, so that's reduced 5 apples down to 3. But we'll have 3 good apples instead of 5 that didn't make it quite so well. And again here, if you look at this, this is a bit of damage at the bottom end. I'm not sure what sort of pest or insect has done that, but this apple has been damaged at the base. That'll probably rot later on, so again I'm just twisting that off and discarding it. And so that's just reduced 2 to 1. This one will grow nicely, but this apple, you see, that probably wasn't going to do so well. So again, summer pruning, the most of it is really done in late May, early June, but it's really worth going over your apples in July. Just remove any bad apples, remove apples which are grossly overcrowded, and remove apples which are so heavy on a branch that the branch is likely to break. And the same is true, but even more so, for plums.